All right, what's up guys? Welcome to the new Flex Bulk Campaign Builder training. This video is just going to be covering the basic features, how to build new campaigns, how to create bulk negate files, and we'll go over some of the new features. So if you've been using the older version of Flex, this one's quite a bit upgraded. It does only cover sponsored products right now. We do have another tool coming out that's going to cover the sponsored brands and sponsored display. But for now in this video, I'm going to just be covering the sponsored products process. So here on the settings tab, the upper portion here is like all the other tools. There'll be a authorization video prior to this one for Flex specifically. Basically, you just need to plug in your FBAExcel.io members area login and password, and then the link in your dummy account. That's a one-time thing, similar to all the other tools. So if you've done it for another tool, you don't have to do it here. And then anytime you come into Flex after your first kind of authorization and after you've granted your permissions, all you'll need to do is hit this authorize button in order to get this new menu to come up. So you can see the upper section up here is related to building new campaigns, and then you have the bulk negate section here, and then just some other operations down here. But the first thing you're going to want to do before you actually even look at the defaults here is go ahead and go to the onboarding, and then this link here, if you're already logged into Seller Central, it's going to take you to your inventory report screen where you can download your all listing report. I'm not going to actually do it in this video because it's not honestly needed. All that you really need from that report is your ASINs and SKUs. So that report, you can just download it if you want to get that data quickly. Alternatively, you can type it in or copy and paste it from somewhere else, but basically you're just looking to get your SKUs and your ASINs side by side like this. I'm going to import the all listing file in case you do go ahead and download that. I'll show you what it looks like. So you would just download it from Amazon and then save it to wherever, and then you'll insert a new sheet, import data. All right, and then you can see I've got my SKUs here in column D and then ASINs in column Q. So I'm just going to copy both of these guys real quick. So you just put that in the SKU reports, and all this does is allow you to kind of pick from a drop down once you've got these two things imported, and it just data validates it so you don't accidentally choose the wrong product when you're trying to make campaigns. All right, so after you've got that, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this now, and you're good to hide this tab here. So if you ever need to get back to that, just go to onboarding, add SKU ASIN list, and that's how you get back to it. So the tabs here, just real quickly, you've got a negative upload file and a campaign upload file. These are automatically going to get created if you accidentally delete them, so don't really worry about them. The two import sheets, though, are two that you don't want to delete. So the first one's going to be the bulk campaign builder sheet, which looks like this. And then you have the bulk negate tool sheet that looks like this. So pretty basic. Hopping back to the settings, let's just talk about the defaults here. You can basically assign any of these default values, and then any new campaigns that you go to create will have these input by default. This one here is a portfolio ID, which you would actually need to get. You can download your bulk file from Amazon's bulk campaign manager. So if you click here and go to open bulk ops manager, that'll take you to download a bulk file. But I will do it when we go to the example of the bulk negate tool, because you do need to import a bulk file in order to look up some IDs that are now needed for existing campaigns. So you'll see an example when I get to that point. But as far as the campaign creation, all we need to do is just make sure that this data here is what we want for any new campaigns that we add. So if we want to always, for example, have placements that we're optimizing for like top of search, you would check that, and then you could add your percentage right here that you would always want to have. You'll be able to edit it independently, but just know these are kind of where you edit the general defaults. And then here you have a custom naming tool. So it's basically going to help you name the campaigns and ad groups depending on what nomenclature you want. So basically you're just going to assign a number value like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a delimiter right here. So you've got a few different ones you can choose from. I like the vertical bar myself, but you would basically at this point say if you want this SP to show first, then you would just type in what you want there. The SP is by default. You can put in your brand name here, whatever you want. So these gray fields are customizable. You don't want to edit the light gray text here. That's just kind of placeholders. And then you can, again, just assign that. Here is a additional suffix that would go on the very end, and this is in addition to any custom names. So I'll kind of illustrate an example of how this works, but for now I'm going to go with, let's say SP is going to be first, and then there'll be a bar, and then the match type, which will get filled in dynamically. For auto and ASIN targeting, it'll be like PAT and then auto for the autos, just because there is no match type for those. But the broad exact phrase will actually say broad exact phrase for that portion. And then I'm just going to say custom, let's say we'll call these single keyword, something like that. This is an example of what you could do. And then here I'm just going to have the ASIN show up for my ad group. And then let's say I also want the SKU in there. So I would add a 4 there, and that SKU would show up. Actually, I want to do this 3 and that 4. And then my ASIN will be looked up based on that list that we plugged in right there from the beginning. So once you've got these kind of set how you want, if you want to add a counter as well, and I'll show you what that is here in a few minutes, you would just make sure that that's checked. So we go over now to the bulk campaign builder tool. And then we're going to, the first step is you're going to want to decide what type of campaigns you're going to make. So if it's an auto, choose auto. If it's like exact phrase or broad, you'll choose this one, or ASIN targeting is this last one. So most common one's probably going to be this guy here. And what you'll do is just pick whichever one you want. You'll notice when you do toggle between each one, it is going to ask you if you want to clear your existing campaigns if you're working on any. So that's one way you can kind of clear the tool here. The other way is there's a clear button here that says clear campaigns. I'll do the exact same thing. If I click that, it's just going to clear any existing campaigns. So I'm going to actually go back now and do an example of the main one you're going to be using probably. So I'm going to hit yes. So you can see how that just adjusts accordingly. So you can only do like one of these targeting types at a time, auto, manual keyword targeting, or manual ASIN targeting. So, but you can just keep appending the campaigns that it's going to create to this campaign upload file. So, but what you'll do is just walk down these 4 steps, pretty easy. So I'm here, you'll see if I try to click on this one, which is an ASIN targeting, it's not going to let me because you can't add ASIN targeting to the manual keyword targeting type. So it's just not going to let you. But if we go back and choose either exact phrase or broad, it will let us, and it's going to ask us how many we want. There's really no limit to how many ads. So let's say I want to make 10 single keyword exact campaigns. I'm just going to type in the number 10 there, and you see you get a separate column for each campaign. All right, and you can see a little color code down here as well. The red means you've got a duplicate name in place, so that would be something you just want to be aware of. Any of the light grays are optional fields or plugged in from the defaults that we plugged in on the settings tab, so you can kind of see where those are coming from. This portfolio ID, it is important that you do have a accurate ID there. If it's not a valid value that is in your campaign manager, you are going to get an error when you go to try to upload it. So either use no value there, or just make sure you actually have the correct portfolio. So actually I'm going to go ahead and import a bulk file because we are going to need one down here. I mentioned that earlier, so I'm just going to do it right now, and I'll show you where to get that portfolio ID. So give me 1 second. All right, so to download your bulk file, you need to already be logged into Amazon, and then you can just come down here and click either this button or this button here. Actually takes you to the same place. So you can see I'm already here. So here's where it's going to take you. If for some reason you have a ad blocker on or something, keep an eye out here in the URL bar. You might be able to turn it off in time. If not, you can always just navigate to your campaign manager within Amazon, and then over here on the right, you just want to make sure you have the bulk operations checked right there. You probably won't see this green notification because the legacy format gets deprecated literally tomorrow, so on July 1st. So hopefully you won't see that anymore. If for some reason you do, just make sure you pick the new spreadsheet format. So this version of the Flex Campaign Builder works with the new spreadsheet format only. So you need to have that selected when you download your bulk file, and then both when you upload a new file, make sure that if there is a toggle available there that it's set to that. But to get your portfolios and also the sponsored products file that we need to look up the IDs, you'll just want to go ahead and pick, I'd go ahead and just pick a date range, even though yesterday would probably work fine. So just do like 30 days. And then for this one, you just want to make sure, I always have a habit of deselecting that. Make sure that your sponsored products one is not checked, so it won't be excluded. You could go ahead and check those if you want. We just need the sponsored products data, and then we're also going to get the portfolio tab by default. So I've already got a test one downloaded, but you would just hit create spreadsheet for download, and then down here where it says download, once that link publishes, you'll just click on that and then save it. All right, and then you'll hop back into the tool here, and then you can go to File, Import, and you would just find wherever you saved it. All right, and then once it imports, just make sure where you get this saving notification that you wait until that says it's saved. Otherwise, Google Sheets won't really let you click around or do anything. All right, so you can see there it says save to drive, and then this green bar usually will load just a second and kind of finish everything up, and then you'll be good to kind of click around. But down here you can see the tabs that imported. This was the demo file, so I had sponsor brands and display in there as well. But you can see portfolios that came in with it, and this is where you can build portfolios within Campaign Manager, and then when you download this file, it's got the IDs for all the ones you had. So here's the actual IDs that would go in your bulk file or in your bulk campaign builder. If you want to put them in different portfolios, here's where you would change that and just paste that ID there. But you could also just have one default that you put all new campaigns in and put that on your settings tab. So once you add the new campaigns here, it's in there by default. But so I'm going to actually just go and clear these campaigns. And then I'm going to go here and let's pretend that these are for this, that I want to put in all of them. So I'm just going to change this value here. I like to hit Control-Shift-V so it pastes the values, and that won't screw up any formatting in any of the tools. And then I'm going to go back to the campaign builder sheet now and re-add just my 10 exacts. So I'm going to go like that. All right, now we can see that we've got that portfolio ID in there. Like I just entered the 10 exacts, I could go ahead and just, if I say I wanted to build 5 phrase and they were multi-keyword, I could add those at this point and it would just append them to the far right. So you can kind of make whatever combination of campaigns you want. All right, and then the next step is we're gonna wanna pick and make sure we've got our SKU selected. So this is coming from that SKU and ASIN list that we imported right at the beginning. So I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that this is the one we wanna make it for. Now, when you drag over, you gotta be a little careful. If your SKU has a number on the end, watch what happens with that. See how it advanced to 9? And then this says invalid now because it's not one of the data validated SKUs. So to prevent that, if you hold in the control key and then when you let go of that, you'll notice that it stays 38. The other thing that you could have done is just copied that guy and went over and pasted it like that. Just so you just want to make sure that you have all the right SKU in there that you want. All right. And then the next step is going to be to actually plug in your keywords. So you've got some workspace down here. There's a couple different ways you can do this. So let's say you've got a keyword list here that I just have KW1 for an example. So let's say here's my 10 keywords and I want to do a single keyword campaign. One nice thing you can do is if you copy from a list and then I just double click into this first cell and I paste it, that's kind of and you can expand these as well. Need to make that so it does it automatically. But anyway, there's kind of a multi-keyword campaign, how that would be structured. But if you want to do single keyword campaigns, which if you remember, we've got a kind of single keyword identifier. That's what that meant right there. You can actually come up here and there's a button that says transpose keywords. And that's just going to take whatever's in that first cell that you have selected and transpose it across. So you can see now we've got one keyword in each campaign. Keep going way too far. All right, so let's pretend that that's kind of what we want. Now, from here, you have some additional options. You could be done if you want, but if you want to add negations, if you want to make any tweaks to any of the inputs, if you want to add like top of search placement just for one of these, you can come in here, click that. You can add your percentage. So let's say I want to do 30% top of search. You would type in 30 there. These rest of them you don't want to do that with. You can add negations here. So this first negation is going to be an ad group level negation, which is primarily the one that I typically use. So we've got an exact match campaign, so this doesn't really make much sense, but let's pretend we had a broad and you wanted to do like a phrase match. You could type in negative or select negative phrase there, and then you would type in your negative keyword right here. And then just like we did up here, you can do, if you hit, it's actually Control Enter, that advances down a row within that cell. So you could do negative keyword 2, hit enter, and then similarly here you could see right there, hit Control plus enter for new line. We did the list method, but you could have just as easily typed in multiple keywords if you didn't want to do a single keyword campaign. Here you can actually do the campaign level negations as well, and you would just type in, similar to how we did here, you could do campaign level negation keywords, and then here you would pick which match type you want to use for that. I'm not going to do one for here, but once you've got kind of everything dialed in how you want it and you've got your keywords assigned, then it's time to make sure you've got your campaigns named and your ad groups named accordingly. So for here, I'm just going to go up and use the custom naming tool, and you want to make sure you use this once you've got kind of all your campaigns laid out, because you're not going to be able to really revert back very easily. You can revert back right after you do it by hitting Control Z, but if you do, click this button and then do some other steps, you're not going to be able to get back very easily. So anyway, when I click this, you'll see what happens. It's basically going to make all the changes here. You can still see these are named the exact same because they were from the same SKU, same ASIN, exact match, everything was the same, but it did make the changes. So now our ad group names are ASIN. We've got our kind of custom naming scheme up here that's still in red, and this is where the little checkbox that we checked here for our counter, that's where that comes in. So if you have that checked, you can just come up here now and go back to custom naming tool, add suffix criteria, and that suffix is part of the counter. So if you don't have a suffix in there, which we typed in suffix test for the right here, so you could have left that blank, and we go back and see what it did. Now it's turned from red to blue because this counter has created a unique name for each one. So that's kind of the idea there. And then once you're comfortable with everything and you've got kind of everything exactly how you want it, you could at this point too, like go in and make any manual overrides. That's perfectly fine. You can see everything's are just values. You would go up and hit create campaign upload file. And all this is going to do is take the data that's on this sheet. You can see we've already got one of these campaign upload files present, which is right here. If you didn't have that and you accidentally deleted it, it's going to automatically create a new one, which is fine. But this does give you the option to have kind of a working copy. And if you have some manual keyword targeting that like we're doing right now already established in that file, and you want to add like auto campaigns and then ASIN targeting, you can do that and keep appending it to the same file. That's the purpose of this little pop-up. But I'm going to hit yes. And you'll see it runs real fast. Now it says finish script. You just hop over to your campaign upload file and you'll see everything's laid out how we kind of wanted it. And you've got all your budgets and your keywords and everything here. You can see our negations. We have that negative phrase, ad group level negation. You've got the bid adjustment there that we made. So there's our 30% for top of search. So this is basically how you build out the manual targeting. Now let's say we wanted to do like an auto campaign. After this, we just go back here and I'm going to just click here and switch now to auto. And we'll get this pop-up that says, do you want to clear it? Hit yes. All right, and now you'd come up here, add an auto campaign, and let's say we want to do just one for this one SKU. All right, and we'll just pick our SKU. I think it was this guy. All right, now for autos, it automatically adds the 4 targeting types. There's no way to do just one at a time in this new format, but you can add your ASIN, or I'm sorry, your negations. So if you want to negate any keywords from the get-go, both at the ad group or campaign level, you can do it the same way we just did the previous demo. And then you can add ASINs here that you want to negate as well. So if you want to negate your ASINs, for example, you can just type those guys in. Same deal there. You can add more lines if you want to add more. All this stuff here is pretty well the same. Now if we do the custom naming tool, update custom names, you'll see what it does for match type. Since there is no match type for auto, it just changes that to default to auto and then plugs in everything else there like the other one. So once you've got that dialed in, you're good to add these. And here it'll say, do you want to override it? We don't want to override it. We just want to append it. So I'm going to hit no. And we'll get the finished script. Now if we go over here, we can see our old data in here as well as our new. So our auto is down here at the bottom now. And you can basically see how it added in this negation for the ASIN that we plugged in. So everything else is looking good. And just like this, you would do the exact same thing for the ASIN targeting. The ASIN targeting options, you do have the yes. So for this one, you do have your ASINs that you would want to target, and you just enter those one per line. So similar to keywords, but doesn't have as many inputs. In this one, it's a little bit easier. So I won't do an example of this. I think you can get the gist by the other 2 examples we just did. All right, so that is pretty much how you add campaigns. Now I will say briefly on, if we go back to the keyword targeting, if you wanted to do like a multi-SKU campaign or a multi-match type campaign, that is possible. So let's say we wanted to do a multi-match type campaign, for example. You would do, let's see, the fastest way, I could actually just do this. And then you want to change one of these to phrase, change this one to broad. So this is a multi-match type campaign. Basically, you just want to change the only variable that you want to have multi. So if you want to have a multi-SKU campaign in the same campaign, you would have The only difference would be your SKU row. In this case is the match type campaign, so we want everything else the same. So I would make this like this, and just check them all here. All right. And then in this case, because I want to have all of these be in the same campaign, I just want the match type to be different. You would keep this red, you would keep it duplicated so it's the same name, so you wouldn't add the suffix, for example. And then for your keyword, you would have it be the same keyword. And this would obviously be whatever keyword you're wanting to target, and you could do multi keywords as well. You just want to make sure they're all the same. All right, and then once you get to that, I'd go ahead and hit the update custom names. This isn't going to change the fact that they're still duplicated. Oh, it does. I'm sorry, because of the match type. So for this one, you would need to just make sure that you didn't have a different name. All right, so like that. All right, then everything else would be the same except the match type. So now when we add these, so we want to append it, hit no. All right, so you can see down here what it did. It's got just one row for the campaign, one ad group, one product to add row, and then it's got our 3 keywords that are going in one of each of the match types. So that's how that kind of gets done, and you aren't duplicating the campaign 3 times. It literally it like removes the duplicates of any of the extra rows. So that's how you would do the multi match type. The multi SKU, again, same deal. You would just keep everything else the same, but you would change the SKU row to be different. That's how you kind of trick the system. So, all right, so that is kind of this upper section. The bulk negate tool is pretty simple. So we'll go over to that tab next. And what you've got is basically 4 columns here that you need to populate, and then you've got the negate type. So where this is pretty useful is especially if you use Apex and the Stoptimizer tool. So there's a separate video on kind of how to get to this stage, but basically this is a view of our search term report, and it shows us some of the research campaigns and the search terms that just aren't performing well based on whatever criteria we specified. You can see there's like no sales and higher spend or higher clicks or lower click-through rate, high impression type deals. But there's a filter over here that you can quickly kind of sort and find these. And then this is all dummy data, so there's some duplicates and stuff in here, but basically you can tell that the 4 columns here that are needed in the bulk negate tool are right here. So what you would do is, in this example, you could, one smart thing to do would be actually to sort by ASINs and search terms here one more time. All right, so that just kicks all the ASINs kind of at the top. And then what you can do is copy this block of data. The exact match is another one you may not want to negate because that's kind of defeating the purpose of the exact match. But anything like broad, phrase, and auto, you could very easily want to negate that. So I'm just going to copy this whole block of data here, take it over to Flex, and then I'm going to go ahead and just paste that. Click the right button here, like that. And you can see it aligns properly. This would be the way you would kind of manually negate things if you wanted as well. You just make sure you have the right keyword or search term that you're wanting to negate, the right campaign name, ad group name, and then match type. The little dash means auto, so you can pick the exact same thing from the data validated drop down. And then the negate type, this would be based on if it's an auto campaign and you're negating a keyword. Like in this case, you would pick the either exact or phrase match. And then if it's the ASINs like we had back here, so if these are from auto campaigns, then you would pick a different one. So let me copy that. All right, and then this, again, this dash means it's coming from a product targeting campaign. So here you would actually pick, if it's an auto campaign, and you would know that just by looking at the campaign name usually, or again, the match type, you would pick an auto negate. This is kind of a made up match type. It just tells the Flex system to negate it as a ASIN in an auto campaign. So you basically just are going to go down through here and pick which negate type you want. Most of them will probably be like negative exact, let's say. And then if you have any ASINs that you want to negate as well from autos, you can do that. But see, these are all kind of made up keywords. So those would all be either negative phrase or negative exact. All right. And then when you're ready to create your negate file, you're just going to hit create negative upload file. And then same deal like the ad campaigns. It's just going to give you kind of a prompt there if you want to add or append. I'll just say I want to create a new one. So now we're going to go over here. All right, and you can see what it did. It basically created this. It ended up looking up our campaign and ad group ID. That's why we needed the, you actually need this one here, the sponsored products campaign sheet that we imported our bulk file from. So that's critical. You actually have to do that step before you use the bulk negate file. So that's what step 1 is here. Step 2 is what we just did. So it looked up that information. And if I go back here, you can see for the auto ASIN negations how it makes a bit of a change there, but it also has your same campaign ID, ad group ID, and then this field here ends up being a little different, but not a whole lot of complexity here on this bulk negate sheet, but a lot of different things you can do with it. We could have just as easily, migrated terms. Let's say if we move from a broad or a phrase to an exact match and you want to negate the same keyword in the root campaign, you would plug that information in here, make the right negation type, and then build your bulk file accordingly. And then you would just upload these into separate uploads. So once we're ready to actually make the changes on Amazon, you've got these 2 files how you want them. You're going to want to actually go to the file that you're kind of working with. So in this case, this is our new campaign creation file, and then you just go to the last step in each one of these, which is export to Google Drive. And in your Google Drive, when you actually authorize Flex, it'll build a FBA export files in your main directory. So that's where any of the export files are automatically going to go. So if I just come back here now and I hit export to Google Drive, it says output saved. You'll find it in the FBAExcel export files in your Google Drive account. Hit OK. All right. Likewise, you can hop over to your negative upload file. And usually you wouldn't do these back to back like this. You'd probably be doing one or the other, but all right, hit OK. Now you may have to refresh this to see them, but you can see there negative upload file and then campaign upload file. So those are both done at 320. And then those, you would just go back to Campaign Manager, and again, make sure if the beta option for the new format is available, you have that toggled. You hit Choose File, and then you go and find those files that you saved in your Google Drive folder, and then you just upload them. And you should see this finish successfully prompt. You can see here I was testing some things, but if you do get any sort of errors, you can download the error report here and send it to support. We'd be more than happy to help you out and show you what you did wrong. But if you follow the steps in this video, you really shouldn't get those types of errors. There may be a few quirks or whatnot here for the first week or two while we're testing, but for the most part, things should be good to go. All right, I think that pretty much covers it. As far as kind of clearing the system out, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I went over those scripts already, but basically if you're ever in this sheet, you toggle this option here, it's going to automatically clear it, or you can use this button here. The clear negatives, that just clears this sheet right here. So you would just come up, hit clear negatives, and that clears that out. So you're able to use it for the next time. So, all right, guys, hopefully this helps, and I will see you guys in the next training video. Thanks.